I'm looking forward to seeing Kyle's team of the season in particular.
What?
Yeah.
A what now? A what now?
There was that guy Nigel.
Dion
That guy Bruce.
Soybeanies and copy it.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Watch More Football. It's the final weekend of the Premier League season, so we're going to break down how it all ended and where everyone ended up and who's sad and who's happy and all that. I'm Cam, this is Ryan as always. Producer Kyle is here as well. You are watching us on the Genreverse Sports YouTube channel, and that is linked very strongly to our main Genreverse YouTube channel. So why don't you check that out if you're interested in reactions, reviews, lots of anime content on there. But there's also stuff like Andor reviews, Wheel of Time reviews, which just get cancelled this week, so you might not be that interested in that one, but there you go. We're sad about that. And you'll find written content similarly on all rumours, geek movies, and hoity-toity stuff. Loads of interviews from our interview team as well, all on lrmonline.com. And yeah, that's pretty much that. So, as said, it is the final week of the Premier League season. Before we get into the real games, we'll cover off the mini game. And as always, we're going to start with our predictions. And
Although we were just going to make
so close, but so far.
Yeah, we were just going to make mention of what happened in Liverpool yesterday first.
Oh, you wanted to start with that? Okay,
yeah,
sorry,
I think
maybe missed that.
Yeah, I think it's worth starting with. Just to say that, it's sad to see the scenes that happened in Liverpool in their title parade. It's not what anyone wants to see. Yeah, I think the story's become a bit more clearer now than it was 24 hours ago, but it's still not a great situation. So I hope everyone involved recovers. Thankfully, no one seems to have passed away, as far as I can tell. So that is
fingers crossed at the moment. They are saying everyone is on the road to recovery, shall we say? Which is a good job for the guy who did it as well, because I think he's being charged with attempted murder. And having drugs in his system and dangerous driving and all that sort of stuff as well. But we're not a serious show here, so we're not going to spend too much time on that. We just wanted to acknowledge that it's absolutely shocking, and that our thoughts go out to anyone who's watching this who may have been involved or knows somebody that was involved in it, and just good wishes. But on to our predictions table then.
Moving on to the predictions. So, I mean, it really was a bit of a underwhelming finale, I want to say, considering that the gap had been pulled to within 2 points last week.
Underwhelming. I had the best.
No, we'll get to
weekend,
you,
and that means I win the whole thing because I was first place across the finish.
We'll get to you in a minute, Kyle. We'll get to you in a minute. But anyway, Cam just had 2 points to pull over on Dave. Dave for the third week in a row scored just 4 points. I haven't changed his scoreboard. I don't know how long. But Cam only got the 6 points, and by virtue of Dave getting more 3-pointers, more correct score lines than Cam, we are awarding the title to Dave, and Dave has been on top basically since Christmas as well. So I think,
I think he's having a good season as well, considering I was in top up till Christmas, and I still ended up finishing in the same points as Dave.
Okay, Michael. Okay,
but the prize goes to Dave at the end.
Yeah, Mr. Arteta,
that's the rules.
But yeah, well done, Dave. You've stumbled over the line, but fair play to Cam, because it did look like Dave was running away with it a few weeks ago, and you've managed to claw him back. And Mick kept things interesting as well. He finished just 8 points behind in the end. He had a very good week this week, as did Kyle. Scored 9 points, broke the 200-point barrier. And even though I actually had a rare good week, I didn't get any closer to him as a result. So send me your worst anime, and we'll do something over the summer.
What's gonna? Well, I'll go ahead and let everyone know what it's gonna be. So you can don't read too much into it.
No.
But it's called The Boy and the Beast.
Okay.
Actually, don't read too much into it. It's not anything too crazy. It's actually a really really good movie. But I want you to be fresh for it.
Yeah.
We'll talk more offline, but yeah, Ryan will watch The Boy and the Beast anime movie, and he'll join me for a review over on the Genreverse YouTube channel.
It's about a choir boy and his priest.
Oh God, no. No.
You know, it wouldn't be funny if it wasn't true. Anyway, so on that note, the predictions table is over for another season. I think we did initially have maybe a couple of people kind of joined in, but not really kind of long term on that.
No.
Yeah, that's I think Dave's second win overall, considering when we also started it back in the old online forum days.
I did actually try and have a look and see if I could find the old results, but that all seems to have been
well, I can tell you that
David
won 1, I won 1, and Mick won 1. So we had all won 1, and you hadn't. Okay. So I don't think we need to know any more than that, because I think there was another one, but it's someone that I can't remember.
Yeah. I mean, this is all dating back from a forum that none of us have been on for a good 10 years, I would say. So
at least,
and the forum itself doesn't exist, but we'll swing over that. What I will say is we all made some predictions about how the season would go right at the start of the season. We are hoping to get Mick and Dave back next week to go over those and poke some fun at people, but we haven't included them in the overall predictions table because we hadn't pre-agreed how we'd score it, and also Kyle didn't get involved in that either. So
no, we'd need to agree a scoring system.
Yeah,
for that, although I think it would be difficult.
What am I? I'm 18 points behind Kyle, so even then I don't think I'd have caught up with him. So, but that's what we're going to be doing next week.
20 places right in your predictions, which is unlike
sadly
seasons that we had.
Sadly, we did the maths on what would happen if Mick got 30 points, and he would have won the league based on the other two predictions. But sadly, he fell just the 22 points short of that total this week. So
lucky, Mick.
Next year's your year, Mick. Anyway, moving on to the team of the week.
Yeah, team of the week.
We've got 2 Man United players in our team of the week, but I'll get onto that in a minute.
Shocker, and you know what? Actually, for once, it might be deserved.
There's no quibble, and it's only because, and we'll get onto that later as well. It's only because the 2 Man United players have done Newcastle a solid. But yeah, in goal we've got Jordan Pickford, who fresh from no doubt being on the lash, having celebrated Sunderland getting promoted, was a brick wall against Newcastle, didn't let anything through. Everton won 1-0. He pulled off some quite good saves.
I honestly think Pope had as good a game as Pickford. They both pulled off some good saves, but one kept a clean sheet and the other one didn't. It's not as if Pickford was the only one keeping us from scoring, but I don't think anybody else stood out more than him either. So he kept a clean sheet away from home. Go for it.
Yeah. Now moving on to the main event, we've got Ahmad at right back. Now it's weird because when we signed him, he was a striker, but we've got him in at right back. He started the game at number 10, and he was all right, but not really getting into the game. Half time, Diogo Dalot comes off. Ahmad moves to right wing back, which has been his best position all season, as far as I'm concerned. And he was just a constant thorn in Villa's side. He scored the opening goal with a good header, and then he won the penalty for the second goal, which wrapped it up. So, man of the match performance for me. Next to him, I've got Aidan Heaven at centre back, who's recently come back from injury. He's looked good since he's come into the side. We signed him in January from Arsenal's academy, but I just thought he did a brilliant job of marshalling Villa's forwards on the odd occasion that they broke. Especially Ollie Watkins. He just stuck to him like glue. Didn't give him a sniff. Really impressive performance from him. Next one, we've got Levi Colwill from Chelsea, who scored the goal that got them into the Champions League. They beat Forest 1-0. Kept a clean sheet, obviously, but he got a goal. It was a nice finish. So he's in, and then we've got Kieran Tierney, who scored on his last appearance for Arsenal against Southampton as well. That's the back four, and then in midfield we've got Moises Caicedo, who, I think Dave snuck him in quite a few times, and we've not quibbled because we haven't been watching Chelsea
Dave
games.
thinks he should be in everyone's team of the season, and he's disgusted that he's not. But I don't think he will make mine, if I'm honest. But he has had a good
I don't
season,
think he's going to make mine either. But
I rate him. And he did
do you know,
well enough.
Forest
they had the most
midfield
difficult game away to Forest. So
Forest have got a good midfield with a lot of running. So if you can keep a clean sheet and keep it quiet and have a good game against them, fair play. We've got Jack Hinshelwood in midfield, who I've put in midfield because I assume he's a midfielder, but I think he's one of those players that just sort of pops up everywhere. But he got 2 goals for Brighton to turn it around. They were 1-0 down, and then he got 2 in quick succession. Quite good finishes as well. He's had a good season, actually. He's gone under the radar a bit, but he does pop up quite a bit, Jack Hinshelwood. And then Ilkay Gundogan is in there as well in midfield. I can only assume for his little bicycle kick to put City 1-0 up over Fulham. I didn't pay close attention to their highlights to see what else he did, but it was a nice little bicycle kick
over Fulham. In terms of the highlights. And obviously I never watched the game live because of the format of the last day, but the highlights wise, it looked as if it was just.
And what I would say is, as bicycle kicks go, it's one that I've got it's the type that I've got quite a good appreciation for, because there's the famous ones like Garnacho's and Rooney's where the cross is coming in from miles out and he can really line it up. This was a split second, the ball just sort of pops up 6 yards out and he just decides, right, I'm doing it. And I think to keep it down and score from that close in from a bicycle kick is quite impressive, especially when you're Ilkay Gundogan's age as well. Next we've got Jared Bowen for West Ham, who scored against a team. They definitely scored against a team. Who was it? Ipswich. He's had a good season. He got a goal and an assist. He's West Ham's best player, I think. And then the other wing, we got Antoine Semenyo, who got 2 goals against Leicester. The first was a bit of a tap in. The second one was a really nice sort of driven low shot from about 20 yards out that just sort of stayed on the ground. Really nice goal. And then up front, we've got Minetzi from Wolves, and I have forgotten to look up his first name. It is Marshall Minetzi from Wolves, who scored an absolute banger to equalise against Brentford on Sunday as well. He just sort of was in the box, the keeper had it covered, and he just decided to absolutely twat it, and it went in.
I will just put in a couple of notable mentions, because I think although Pickford get in, I think the 2 best players for Everton actually were Ndiaye and Beto. The ball kept getting up to Beto. He was basically one striker against 3 centre-backs, and he dominated them all game. He was as strong as Burn. He was winning the ball, he was holding up, then he would pass it to Ndiaye, and then Ndiaye was just going on runs and hurting us. And I thought they were just the 2 best players in the Everton team. So I think
that is
one of those to get in, but
that is probably sort of symptom of what happens on the final day of the Premier League season is all of the games are played at the same time, just to make sure there's no questions of integrity or whatever. But that means that you watch your own game in full, and then match of the day 6 games is covering 10 games all at the same time, so the highlights are quite limited. So you obviously saw Ndiaye and Beto having really good games without really any end product. We saw highlights of not really much from them, which is why I think neither of them
I get that, but I think Everton fans and Newcastle fans that had watched the game would probably agree maybe that those 2 were the 2 best players on the pitch. I think.
I also think Ndiaye's had quite a few Ndai's had a few caps recently, and I think he'd be in danger of threatening team of the season, when I don't think that's necessarily going to be appropriate, but we don't really look at it that way, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't think you can look at it like that. But he didn't get any assists and he didn't get any goals, so I don't think it's an automatic junk in. It's just an honourable mention.
He had a good game. Yeah, look, I've made that sort of case for United players all season, haven't I? So I get it.
Yeah. I mean, and it can sometimes be, but it depends who you're going against. And you'd be up, let's say he's up against Gundogan, who probably the last time he's going to play for City, and he scores a great goal, plays really well all game. It's hard to put Ndai in ahead of him, really, to be honest.
Yeah,
so I get it.
But what we are going to do next week, in addition to looking at our pre-season predictions, we're going to look at the cumulative team of the season from our team of the week picks. But also we are each going to do our own individual ones and basically have it out over that. I'm looking forward to seeing Kyle's team of the season in particular.
What?
Yeah.
A what now?
There was that guy Nigel.
De Jong or
Bruce?
Dini's and copy it.
Yeah.
Oh God!
Just pick Newcastle close.
Sure.
You'll be all right.
Big gun all the way. Team of the year.
We'll total up like in terms of how it works out in terms of the caps, but then we're also going to give our actual thinking heads on who have been the most consistent players in terms of if you look at the season as a full package. So anyway, so where did we end up? So Kyle, if you want to bring up the table, well, I guess that's a good way to start. And then we'll talk about some of the games that got us there. What it means is that the top 5 places in that table all qualify for the Champions League, which is the premier European competition next year. But actually, England will have more teams in it than I think anyone ever has before, because you'll also see, if you look way down at the bottom at 17, that it's got a little box around it. And that means that they have also qualified for the Champions League. The 4th bottom team in the league have qualified for the Champions League. And Spurs fans, I'm not complaining before you think I'm going that way. Not at all. It's deserved this rules. And Ryan would be loving it if it was his team.
Oh, absolutely.
So we have 6 teams that have qualified for this. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, the English teams did so well in Europe this year, they got an extra space because normally it's 4. And then, as I say, Spurs win the Europa League, which is automatic qualification into the Champions League. Yeah.
I was just about to say something that was going to be factually incorrect, so we'll carry on.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I didn't allow you to finish. In terms of where we go there, then
I've got a question on that. Does that mean you guys are going to be following Champions League a bit more next year, or do you still not care as much?
Because my team I will be. Ryan will be on the opposite side.
Chelsea,
he won't care
Dave
at all about Europe next season.
Chelsea,
if Dave's there, he would want to, because his and I's teams will be in the.
It really depends on what we got room for in the podcast.
When does that start compared to Premier League?
It runs concurrently with the season. All of the European leagues have finished this weekend, and the Champions League final for this season is this coming weekend.
Jeez.
So they play it at the same time.
And everybody has the summer break kind of thing, and then the league starts, and then the league stages of the European competition start, because they all get put in a league and they play each other so many times, or play each other once, but they don't play every team, etc. It's a weird format at the moment, which is only in its 2nd year, or coming up to its 2nd year anyway at the moment. So Nottingham Forest, they finished 6th,
7th,
and they qualify for the. Who was 6th then?
Villa.
Aston Villa. I forgot Aston Villa. that's
really helps when
probably
you open
Freud.
the table up on another screen. It really.
I know, but I didn't think I needed to because I've looked at it that many times. So it just shows you, prepare poorly, prepare to fail. Aston Villa, finished sixth, and we'll get into how all this came about because there's a story about that. But that means they qualify for the Europa League next year, which is the next level down of European competition. So do Nottingham Forest qualify for the Conference League.
Yeah, which is what Chelsea are in. They're playing their final tomorrow. It's the other Europa League team is Crystal Palace because they won the FA Cup.
Of course.
And again, Palace finished 12th.
Who are in the middle of the table. They've got a thing around them as well because they're in the Europa League. Because
they are the definition of mid-table, Crystal Palace. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and then finally we get to Forest going to the Conference League because they're the next highest placed in the league that gets that. Now, if Chelsea win it, they would get the place, but because they've qualified for the Champions League already, that place is up for grabs, so it goes to the next person down in the league. Yeah. So Forest were guaranteed Europe at the start of this. In fact, everybody from Forest above was guaranteed some sort of Europe. It was all just a case of which competition were they going to fall in. There was a very small chance for Brighton to get it, but there would have had to be a series of events which have already not gone their way. So
yeah, it would have needed
both Chelsea. Us and Chelsea to fail to qualify for the Champions League.
Yeah. It's really interesting looking at the BBC website table at the minute, because down the bottom they've got the key of what all the positions mean, and because of the way the trophies have ended up, it's just like it's got your normal sort of 1, 2, 3, 4 Champions League, but then it's also got 5 in there, and it's got 17, and then it's got 6 and 12 for the Europa League, and then it's got 7 for the Conference League.
It's such an unusual, because this normally doesn't happen, and it has been.
Yeah.
The league season, I guess, has not been crazy because Liverpool they're now equal and probably are the biggest team in England now. If you look at it, they've probably kind of overtaken.
We had that debate a couple of weeks ago.
I know.
I'm not.
We did.
Yeah,
and I'm not getting into it all again, but I'm just pointing out that it's not crazy that Liverpool won the league, but all the other cup competitions have just been a little bit crazy this year. And it's actually good. It's been really good for it, but it's opened up and it's given some other people access to Europe as well.
There's a lot of
cool.
A lot of trophy droughts have been broken this year in England, which is a good thing, considering we've come off the back of City winning 4 leagues in a row, and being in the last 3 FA Cup finals as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it's been a refreshing season, and although the title race was done by Christmas, basically, early in the season it did look like it was going to be a bit of a twisty and turny and unexpected season, and it has ended up that way, I think. Yeah.
And ultimately it comes down to where you are at the end. But the final game, well, it didn't go Aston Villa or Newcastle's way, but in the end it swung back Newcastle's way again through not themselves, but we could argue whether it's Aston Villa's incompetence, some refereeing incompetence, but also you guys actually played quite well.
Yeah.
So Ryan, Aston Villa versus Man United.
Yeah, so I mean, going into this game, on my predictions I put 4-0 Villa, because I just thought with the deflation, with the deflation from losing the Europa League, and not only losing but just not turning up in the Europa League final, the atmosphere around the club was very toxic. It was, is Amorim going to stay? Yes, he's going to stay, but he's told Garnacho to fuck off because Garnacho threw his toys out the pram. More job cuts, big worry about the transfer budget for the summer, big worry about just the finances for the club as a whole. Everything was just leading into just who can be asked with this game. The fans are going to be toxic if there's even any there. Villa are bang up for it because they need a win to get Champions League, and they're a good side. But Villa just didn't turn up, really. From kickoff, Villa weren't at it. We had more shots on target in the first 10 minutes of that game than we did the entire game against Spurs on Wednesday.
It's funny because I was talking to some Villa fans online, and I know we'll get to they did have a complaint, but but they also accepted that they were absolutely rubbish in that game.
Yeah, they made us look like a really good
quite
team,
bizarre.
and you know, they didn't turn up. They made us look good, but we did. We played the sort of football that Amorim has been trying to play since he's come in. It was one of the rare occasions where you can see the plan, you can see the blueprint, and it looks good. But the same problem as has happened previously is that we were brilliant for the first 20, 30 minutes, couldn't score. We hit the bar a couple of times. We sort of messed up a couple of chances. And the game sort of flattened out. And what previously happened in the season is when sort of it gets to half an hour, we haven't scored, the players sort of lose focus a bit. That's when we get punished. But Villa just couldn't get out of their own half. We were pressing well. Dorgu was really good down the left. Mount was really good in midfield. Casemiro was really good as well. And then at 0-0 and just before half time, the game sort of really turned where Matty Cash was under a bit of pressure from, I think it was Dorgu. And he plays a back pass to Emi Martinez and just didn't get anywhere near enough on it. Rasmus Højlund, in quite a rare occasion for him this season, was really live to it and immediately starts running towards it. They get to about 30 yards outside the box and Martinez has got to try and come and cover it. But really, well before they come together, Martinez is not looking at the ball at all. Højlund nudges it away. Martinez just sort of shoulder charges in, gets sent off.
I don't even know if I'd call that a shoulder charge. It just
runs into
grabbed him, just ran into him full body.
Ran into him. It's the clearest
Stonewall red card.
It's not even a red card for denial of a goal scoring opportunity. It's a red card for just a reckless challenge, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because actually, I think on the face of it, from where it was, yes, Højlund was live to it and went onto it, but he didn't look comfortable. He was very much a sort of, oh shit, this is happening. This could be a good moment.
He takes
the touch to take it away from Martinez and make sure he gets there.
I think he could have done the wrong thing with it, but realistically, all he needed to do with it was turn his angle and run towards the goal because no one would have been able to catch him. And then as soon as he could not miss, pass it in. But
he didn't do that though. He was sprinting to make sure he got the touch on it so that if Martinez clattered in, he'd get the free kick and he'd get the red card. But its touch took it way to the left, and really Martinez could have just sort of left him there because he would have needed to come back around to go in towards goal. The defenders were actually covering. I think if he hadn't been taken out, I think he had a lot to do, and I think he possibly would have panicked. But obviously, that's not what the rules are. And like I said, the challenge was bad enough that it's a red card on its own. Never mind that it was last man and goal scoring opportunity. So that. That happens. We go in actually feeling good about ourselves at half time. The only sort of concern is we've not managed to score. Second half is very flat for a lot of it. Still some nice play, but not quite the same amount of chances. Villa really sat back because they were struggling to get on the ball anyway. But we weren't really creating much as a result. And then one of the rare occasions that Villa break, a ball goes into Altay Bayındır at the edge of the box, and he just sort of hesitates on picking it up. He was under no pressure. It's there for him to pick up. I don't know whether he thought it was a back pass or whatever, but he just sort of hesitates to pick it up. And then Morgan Rogers sort of nips in, takes the ball off him. It sort of fumbles out, and then Morgan Rogers rounds him and scores the goal. But the ref had basically blown for a foul as soon as he'd nicked the ball off Bayındır. And that meant that because he'd blown for the foul, effectively play had stopped before the ball had gone into the net. So VAR couldn't rule on it because, to all intents and purposes, the ball wasn't in play when it went into the net, because although there was no chance anyone was going to get back to defend it, in theory, a player could have done. And Villa were quite aggrieved by that. I'm still 50-50 on whether the decision was right or not, but I think what's happened was where the ref for this game was more used to reffing in the Football League, in the Championship, where they don't have VAR, he was a lot quicker on the whistle than a Premier League ref would be. I think the argument that Villa are making is that a Premier League ref delays the whistle, lets it go to VAR.
It's just worth us pointing out that they have written a letter of complaint, Aston Villa, to the PGMOL. PGA, that's right. And that's the specifics of the complaint, and such an important game as theirs. And I think what they're getting at with saying it is that some of the games yesterday were dead, or not yesterday, Sunday, were dead rubbers. It didn't matter. The result was pointless, right? Like Spurs games, for example, it just did not matter to anyone. So why have the more inexperienced refs reffing one of the games? But there may have been other reasons why people had to go certain places. And I actually think, looking back at the highlights, the ref had a good game other than that. But...
Yeah. He got the call right for the red card. He got the call right for the penalty. They were quite obvious decisions. But as to why this ref was giving this game, I would just say, lads, it's Man United. All Villa had to do was turn up with any sort of commitment on Sunday, and they would have won that match, and they just bottled it, to be honest.
Yeah, I get that. And before any Aston Villa fans get too angry, I'd also understand the point. Like, if I was in your position for like 24, 48 hours, I'd be raging about that decision, because the point is, if it goes in, they've got something to fight against, right? They've got something to hold on to and just park the bus. And at that point, we're getting beat 1-0.
Yeah.
So all they need to do is get a draw to win, never mind 3 points, and it might have changed the game.
Yeah.
I accept that aspect of it. But the other thing I would say is, even though you didn't score it, you still only had to get a draw, and could have just sat back and parked the bus.
Conceded 3 minutes later.
It didn't work.
Yeah. I do agree that, although we were much the better team over the course of the game, and I don't really think Villa did anything to deserve to win it. That was one instant that they took advantage of, basically. I do think 1-0
off if it was us, but I think it's like one of those where you get 48 hours later.
1-0 with
actually we were shit.
Yeah. 1-0 with 15 minutes to go. They dig in and they see it out, because it was typical. We're playing really well. We don't look like scoring. We've gifted them a goal. That's how every single game has gone this season for us, basically.
Yeah,
I don't think that we would have found...
And you guys react badly to a goal. That's the thing as well. So I think they definitely have a valid feeling of unfairness, because just a draw would have got them, because Newcastle failed to win, and we'll go on to that game in a minute. But as I say, the other thing is, and what no Aston Villa fan can deny, is even still, Martinez wrecks it for you by his stupid decision, which just wasn't needed. And even with 10 men, you should have been beating this Man United team. Spurs beat them in the final. They finished,
West Ham beat us.
16th or something like that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, they can't win a game of football, and they did against you.
It was our. I was saying to Kyle before the recording. It was our first win against a team who are going to be in the Premier League next season since January 26th, which is just remarkable. And it's the
next game that we're going to come on to, obviously, is Everton versus Newcastle. And the difference is, Everton, I thought, was going to be a hard game for us, even though it's at our place. And I think I said it last week that there's no pressure on them. They're playing well just now. They've got a new manager. Everything's going quite well for them. They've got a new stadium. There's a feel-good factor. And without that pressure to do anything, they just can come out and play football. But I didn't expect that from you guys, But anyway, how the game went, it kind of went quite typical to how the last few games have got, other than Chelsea. It's a good job we turned up against Chelsea and scored some goals, because if we hadn't, we'd have been out of the whole shooting shebang. That was a vital win for us, and in the end, since we didn't get any more points the rest of the season, that was the one that actually got us Champions League. But we're not playing badly. That's the thing. Like, we dominated Everton for the early part of that game. They come into it more, and they were always dangerous on the break. Don't get me wrong, but it was them sitting back and hitting us in the break a wee bit. We just don't look like scoring at all at the moment. I don't know what it is the last sort of few weeks. we just looked shot shy, even though Isaac was in. That didn't look right, but none of the forwards, like everybody else, was playing quite well. All right, we could have maybe did better for the goal that we lost, but really they never had that many chances after playing quite decent as well. And we were pushing for a goal, obviously, the whole time. We were constantly trying to attack. But I think really our back four, back five, whatever way you want to look at it, and the midfield all kind of did quite well. But the forwards, just none of them did anything the whole game. Gordon was terrible, got took off at half time, and he just couldn't do anything. Murphy, who's been really good lately, was back to classic Murphy. He just didn't look good at all. Barnes was tripping over the ball. The ball was coming to whoever it was, and I kind of almost don't blame Isaac a little bit because it never got as far as him most of the time. Most of the time it got to whoever else is behind him, and then they made an arse of it before it could get to Isaac. We did put on some other, and actually the one that looked most dangerous when he came on was young Willa Sula. He actually put himself about and really kind of looked like he might threaten Everton, but we just couldn't score. Pickford pulled off a few saves, but with the shooting just wasn't there. And it was a bad result for us, to be perfectly honest. I put it down as maybe our worst result of the season, and I mean that because of the importance of it. Now, obviously, you done us a favour. You've saved our arses, basically, by beating Aston Villa when nobody else expected it. But like Aston Villa fans have to accept their team played rubbish, we have to accept that despite trying, we're not playing well enough to actually score goals at the moment, and that we couldn't beat Everton at home. It's as simple as that, and that we nearly blew it big time for the Champions League. So I think we have to look at that and look at some players need to get moved on, and we need to bring in some fresh blood this summer. I think that's absolutely key for us.
I mean, it's the interesting one, isn't it? It's the interesting one, isn't it, about Asula obviously showing a bit more up front, because because Isaac's been in and outside over the last few weeks, and Callum Wilson's been filling in for him, and really those minutes should have gone to Asula.
I've been saying that, and a lot of the guys in like the Newcastle subs that I'm on and stuff like that, they've been saying the same thing. Why, like even when we're winning a game 3-0, he'll bring Callum Wilson on for minutes at the end, and we'll put on Asula, and he's only bringing Asula on at right wing, and actually I think he's better. He looks better as a striker, to be honest,
and he's more
or somebody that can drift
stylistically, because you're not ever going to drop Isaac for tactical reasons, are you? He's in the, if he's fit, he's in the squad, and so you want, if he's not there because of injury, you want someone who can do the same things as Isaac, so that the rest of the team doesn't suffer. And Nasula gives you that a lot more than Wilson does, I think.
Yeah, I don't really know that. For me, Wilson is not looked, even when he's come back fit. You know, he missed a lot of the season, but he just looks one over the hill now. And there is reports that we're not offering him an extension in his contract, but he's quite well paid. But we are kind of trying to negotiate a new deal with him on lesser money, or more, maybe something like an appearance type situation.
Yeah, incentivized contract.
Honestly,
I
get it. I think maybe as a third striker, you know what I mean? But we actually do need a backup. He cannot be the backup. He needs to be the third.
I wonder if it's
can bring in at the end of the game when you need to play two, you know, or something.
I wonder if it's
his own anymore.
I wonder if it's a bit like when we re-signed Johnny Evans, in that obviously he goes back with Eddie Howe quite a long way, and maybe Eddie Howe's doing a favour, and maybe he's looking at his coaching badges, and it's just, we'll keep you in the squad just because we'll need a body there, but you're not going to play, but you can work on your coaching while you're there. I don't know if he's not that old, but his body is getting towards the end of his career, isn't he?
He's not that old, but if you look at how, it's not the years, it's the mileage, isn't it? That's exactly the classic Indiana Jones statement, but it's true. It depends.
He's not that old.
His body's went through a lot.
Right. He's 2 months younger than me. So, yeah, he's not that old.
Yeah. No, not really. Not compared to an old man like me. But, you know, certainly players have had players' careers longer than that at a higher level. And he was still good up to last season, Wilson, but I think this year maybe just with more injuries again, it's just took his toll a little bit too much on him for me. And I think he'd be better. going down a level, but then maybe that wouldn't suit him because they'd want him to play every week. So probably,
exactly.
He's probably better getting a lesser money for us and only coming out when he needs to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being able to rest and just train.
On a free, you'd think he can do a job for a promoted club, but then a promoted club are going to need to offer him quite high wages, and if he can only play like a third of the season, it doesn't make a lot of sense for them. So
and how much work are they going to have?
He's going to get wheeled out against a couple of like Lithuanian minnows in the group stage of the Champions League next season, isn't he? And that, I think, as a sort of last hurrah, is much better than trying to fight relegation for somebody else or trying to get promoted out the Championship.
It's more about kind of just resting people at the end of games and stuff like that. Games that you've won, bring them on. You know what I mean? Games where you need a goal and you need to put True up front, bring them on. But yeah, there's he's not the only one though. There's a few that I think need to move on, because what we've noticed is that the system we've been trying to play the last couple of weeks when we've had Joe Linton out, is we can't. Our midfield that's been so dominant this season, with one of them out, there's no one actually that can come in and do that job. That's what's become evident. He's not playing Longstaff. He's not playing Willock. He's playing a different system to accommodate just Tonali and Bruno.
I still think
that tells you what he thinks.
I still think the best thing you could do, and I said this 12 months ago, the best thing you could do is break the bank and get Morgan Gibbs-White, because he's got the creativity, but he's also got the engine to get back that he needs to play in an Eddie Howe side.
He's going to want Annie to be a first name in the team sheet, so that you turn around and tell Joe Linton that he's a sub now.
Yeah, maybe.
See, I don't know. Joe Linton, we've just given a contract. He's proved every time he's not playing for us, we're worse. You can't.
But you have Morgan. You have Gibbs-White pulling the strings with Bruno and Tonali behind him, keeping things steady as well. And then to see out the game, you get half an hour of full-on energy Joe Linton to just be a wrecking ball. I think that sounds quite good.
He's still only in his 20s. He's got plenty. He's just a niggling injury this season, but I just think he's still got mileage in the clock. But I don't know. I mean, I'd love it, but I just don't think it's where we. I would rather go and get Elliot Anderson at Forest. He's a Newcastle lad. We sold him last year. Manager didn't want to sell him. No one wanted to sell him, but we had to for PSR purposes. Now we're in a position we don't need to. I know that we would take a hit because Forest would want a profit. But I think he would be yes.
But what you can do,
cup final watching us supporting us, I think he'd be perfect.
What you can do is you can
expect to play every game, but he could come into any of those three positions.
You can buy Elliot Anderson, and then you can send Nick Pope back the other way for about 50 million quid, and then it's all even, isn't it?
Sounds good. Just Forest owners, Marinakis, give us a shout. Anyway, but Newcastle locked out. Let's just be honest. Great. But you look at it across the whole season. I think you look at it. We say we deserved to get 5th place. We didn't deserve to get 6th place, or 4th place, or 3rd place. We deserved to get.
I think you're definitely worth a Champions League.
5th place.
You're definitely worth a Champions League spot. Definitely. It's been a good season for you guys.
And the fact that we have won a cup this season, it's our best season in my lifetime.
And considering you obviously struggled a bit last season to juggle both. You didn't really add to the squad in terms of starting quality or even depth. To then sort of come back again, I think that's good work. You're a better side than you were a year ago, and obviously injuries play a part into that. But
I think Eddie definitely gets the team overperforming. But we need to go and
just the fact that
bring in some quality.
Just the fact that sort of midway through the season, we were thinking, has it sort of reached an end for Eddie Howe? Not that he was doing badly, but it's just, has he taken it as far as he can? And he did find another level, I think. And I think you geared up to have a big summer, and I think he's earned the chance to. You geared up to have a big summer, and he's earned the chance to take that forward, I think. So
100%. And Nick's in with the cup win. He's already a legend at Newcastle, so he's done something no other Newcastle manager managed to do. So as far as I'm concerned, really good season. Chelsea, let's talk about them as well.
So while you were talking about Newcastle, I messaged Dave to see if I could get a little match report from him. He is obviously changing nappies or something at the minute, and he's not
you
come
didn't
back.
get
So
one.
I'm gonna sum it up. So Moises Caicedo is the best player in the world, as we've established already in the team of the week talk.
Yeah.
Reece James is Cafu, Beckenbauer, and Maradona combined.
Yep.
Levi Colwill is the best centre back England have.
Second coming of Christ.
Yeah. And Mark Cucurella is David Luiz with talent.
Yeah, maybe the best left back of all time.
I don't see how you can say any other than that.
And you know, we're joking because he's not here, but we're just as biased about it.
Yeah. I didn't pay.
They cruised it in the end. I think. Yeah. If you look at, I know Forest had some chances, but to me, watching the highlights, and again, Forest fans, don't shout at me. You can't watch the other games live, so all we can watch is the highlights. You know what I mean? But from the highlights package, I'd seen Chelsea deserved to win the game.
Yeah, I think there was a chance at 0-0 from Chris Wood where it was a good shot. He was on the 6-yard box, and in February he's burying that, but it's not quite falling for him at the minute. But Chelsea, from all accounts, were quite comfortable once they went ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
again, I never saw much other than the highlights, but I mean, I did switch over to that. I think it finished after our game. I switched over.
Yeah.
I think knowing the other results, Forest were, because a draw wasn't good enough for them at that point, So
yeah,
I think there was.
I think with all of the chaos that happens at Chelsea, with how young their side is, I think realistically they were half in the title race at Christmas, and then they consolidated and got top four. And they do, they have got sort of a well-functioning team at the minute. I think that's good work from Maresca, and they should be able to kick on. It's whether they invest to be able to kick on, or whether they continue with their current strategy of just stockpiling kids and seeing what they do. Because at some point, either these kids are all going to mature at the same time and be brilliant, or they're going to need a couple of older heads to come in and really help spur them on, because it's been a good season contextually. I don't know,
that's the thing, you just don't know. Like, what will Chelsea do after a decent season and getting back in the Champions League? Will they just go crazy and next minute they're trying to sign Neymar or something like that?
Yeah, I don't think
I wouldn't be that surprised.
I don't think they need to do that, but it is whether they look at it and go, right, from where we were a year or two ago, winning, we're assuming they're going to win the Conference League tomorrow. Doing that, getting back in the Champions League, that represents good progress. But it's when they were under Abramovich, it would be, right, we're going to mount a title challenge next season and we're going to have a proper go at the Champions League. It's whether they are willing to make the signings that it takes to get to that stage, or whether they're happy to just continue, qualify for the Champions League.
Well, you qualify for the Champions League, try and win a cup.
So that's going to be interesting. That's going to, and I don't, maybe not next season is when they need to make a title challenge, but they need to be starting to put the pieces in place if that's what they want to do.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's like Chelsea and us really finished right next to each other, but considering the money spent and the money that they can spend and the recent history, Chelsea's ambitions are not the same as Newcastle's immediate ambitions.
No.
So I'd argue we had a better season than them, overall.
I've lost him.
Sounds like he's trying to come in. Yeah. Like I hear little bits of his voice popping in.
Yeah.
Or at least I did.
Did I free? Something went, my internet connection went unstable there for some reason.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
Cool.
Just had some
I think
situation there, guys. Sorry about that.
Yeah. I think we've covered that. And obviously Forest, they'll be disappointed not to get Champions League, but just getting Europe from where they were
in Europe.
A couple of, they were in the Championship
still more
3
money
years
than
ago.
they would have budgeted for, I think.
Yeah. They were fighting relegation battles the last 2 seasons. They were in the Premier League, and really, if they keep hold of their players and are able to invest a bit more, which I don't see why they wouldn't be able to do that, they can have a real good go at trying to win the Conference League next season.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I think they will struggle unless they make some astute signings this year, which means they might have to sell some players to make a bit of profit to be
I
able
mean,
to bring in
I
another
think
couple to improve the squad, because I think they'll struggle with the midweek games.
Well, I think in Forest's position, I think this is where the owner wants them to be, because he's that sort of character. He's got ambition. They are ahead of schedule for it, so I think they can afford to go all out on the Europa League and just finish mid-table in the Premier League and just play it that way. I think that would be more fun for the fans. Like, our Spurs
more
fans. I mean, they're a bit lower than mid-table.
Probably a more realistic chance of getting Champions League doing that.
Well, they'll get Europa League. Yeah, but and then also also Aston Villa again will be disappointed that they fell at the last hurdle to get Champions League. However, they're going into a Europa League campaign with Unai Emery, so
probably his favourites.
Put your bets on for them next season.
If you look across Europe at who else is in it, I don't think there's.
Well, no, but also just
as Villa.
Emery just wins the Europa League wherever he goes. That's his tournament. So so again, if they can keep their squad together, I think they're on course for a good season next season.
One thing we forgot to mention just quickly on Newcastle was that they announced that they were getting rid of their director of football this week. It was just come out today actually, so that Paul Mitchell, who had just come in just over a year ago, hasn't really signed anybody, but did manage to do a good bit of business by signing somebody on a free and then selling them for 30 million 6 months later, which is good accounting no matter where you look at it. Has announced that he's leaving, and that we don't have a director of football in place, and that Eddie Howe is rumoured to be the person in charge of transfers for this summer until we get a new DOF in place. So.
And that's an interesting one, because obviously we've seen issues of managers having too much control over transfers recently. I mean, I said earlier on to you, I don't think that's a big issue with Howe, because he's been in the club for a while. He knows what's what there. He's not trying to make a name for himself. He's not trying to sort of protect his own job. So I think he's in a position to be sensible about it. So I think for this summer, I think that's a better idea rather than trying to recruit a director of football quickly and starting from scratch.
One of the reports I'd read said that Howe will be involved in the recruitment of this guy. I don't think him and Mitchell got on.
No,
I'm reading between the lines, and why bring in somebody where the two people don't go on? So.
He'll have already come up with his plan and given it to the higher ups of, this is what I need in the summer, go get me it. And it just, at the minute, that just cuts out a middleman, and maybe he's got a bit more power to really push on a target, or really say you need to give that extra 5 million more. That'll be it. And I don't think it's a massive risk with him. One last thing, it's a bit of breaking news. It's been running for a while, but just before we recorded, news came out that Man United, who had been expected to sign Matheus Cunha, were trying to negotiate paying his release clause over a period of 5 years. Wolves have rejected that, but it's now been confirmed that United have agreed to pay the release clause over the next 2 years, which was the original terms. So that's been confirmed now. So we should, in theory, see him signed by the end of the week. Yeah, which I think it's a really important signing for us, because he just does offer that goal for it.
Newcastle are signing a goalkeeper as well.
Yeah, Joan Garcia, who's
Joan Garcia, Spanish goalkeeper. I've never heard of him.
Yeah. Well, he was linked to United. He was linked to Barcelona. Apparently, he's been the best keeper in La Liga this season, and he's quite young. So if that is true, that is a cracking signing for you guys, by all accounts. I've never seen him play, but he's the hip young thing at the minute.
Because I watched Espanyol versus Barcelona this year, but I didn't associate who it was.
You weren't scouting him. You weren't scouting him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the hot young thing this summer. So if you are getting him, that's a good signal.
We were looking to be going for a keeper, so it's interesting anyway. But yeah, next week what we're going to do is we're going to try and get Dave and Mick on if we can. I think Dave's up for it. It remains to be seen if we're going to get Mick. And just go over, our predictions at the start of the year, And we're going to be talking like our teams of the season, young player of the season, all that sort of nonsense. And then I think we'll probably take a break for a couple of weeks.
A little break,
because there's no football and the transfer season hasn't really kicked off yet, and maybe kicked back in again round about when the Club World Cup's due to start happening. By that time, the transfer activity will have picked up. We'll be getting into pre-season and stuff like that as well. But yeah, there's no point in us just coming on here and talking about nothing.
Well, there's a couple of internationals as well, but again, that's not worth coming on for, is it? So
I don't think so. No.
But anyway, thank you for sticking with us this season, everyone who's watching. And keep your comments coming in.
We will be back. All right. Thanks very much, guys. Cheers.
Thanks. Bye. Dave's just sent me his match report as well, which is
no, it was just too late. I couldn't see them typing, and I thought, are we going to get that before we finish the Chelsea bit? We moved on. We had moved on.
He did say he didn't watch the whole game.
Anyway.
What did he say? I'm still
like,
recording. What did he say?
All right, so he says, sorry, buddy, just seen this. I only saw 20 minutes of it, so don't have an awful lot to say. Just a good, solid defensive display by Chelsea, really limiting the chances that Forest had. A difference to what we're used to seeing from Chelsea in that they let Forest have the ball. We've seen an improvement in Chelsea's defence the last third of the season, but it's come at the expense of their attacking prowess. Apart from a few opportunities against Forest, they didn't really threaten an awful lot. So basically what we said. The defenders are all really good. That's what we said, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were fairly comfortable with it, like dominating the game. And as I say, Forest had chances, but nothing ever looked like going in.